It was like, man, how do you say it? Like the molecules were communicating with one another, transmitting information in a way humans couldn't perceive. This phenomena spread throughout the world, right? Jumpy looked up at Seven with half a smirk. Seven stared at him, dumbfounded. Yeah, that's it, exactly. But how did you know? I heard another story kinda like that one. When? In the freezer. What? The freezer? Jumpy told Seven the story he'd heard from June in the freezer in the kitchen. How one day glycerin began to crystallize, and the story of ice that wouldn't melt at room temperature. When Jumpy was done, Seven looked thoughtful and absent-mindedly rubbed the scar on his chin. Ice that doesn't melt at room temperature, huh? That sounds familiar? Yeah, hold up. I feel like I can remember something. It's right there. Seven squinted. His eyes stared off into space, as if he were trying desperately to focus on something far away. Do you know about Ice 9? Do you know about Ice 9? Übrigens auch sehr wichtig, dass man diese Antwortmöglichkeit hier ankreuzt. Nur so. Ice 9. Ice 9. Ice 9. Ice. 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 Suddenly, Seven's eyes shot open. That's it! I remember now! That woman! She's on this boat! That woman? Alice! Who's Alice? Who the fuck is... ja. Tut mir leid. Come on! The woman who won't melt at room temperature. What? It became clear to Seven that Jumpy had no idea what he was talking about. He ran his hand across his face and took a deep breath. You know how the Titanic sank on April 15th, 1912, right? Yeah. More than 1,500 people died. Worst maritime accident in history. What about it? Did you hear about the boat that was sent to collect the dead bodies? I think that was RMS Carpathia, right? It was a cruise liner, just like the Titanic. No. That was a ship that picked up the survivors. The ship that collected the dead bodies was a CS Mackay Bennett. The Mackay Bennett showed up on April 17th, 2 days after the accident. It set out from Halifax, a port in Canada, and recovered 306 bodies. The Atlantic that far north was really cold. It would have to be for there to be icebergs and stuff. Anyway, the bodies they pulled out of the water were frozen solid. This isn't a very nice story. So, what happened next? Well, they say the Mackay Bennett recovered something more than just dead bodies. There were various bits of stuff floating around in the water, things the drones had carried with them, or stuff dislodged as the ship sank. One of the things they found was a coffin. A coffin? Yeah, a wooden one. The craftsman who'd made it must have been pretty skilled. It wasn't just a wooden coffin, it was all wood. There were no nails or reinforcements, and there were no gaps in the wood anywhere. It was airtight. The crew got pretty curious about what might be inside it and opened it up. They had to get a wedge and hammer it open. It was so well made. Inside, they found a woman, or I guess you should say they found the dead body of a woman. Her hair was thick and black, and her skin was deep brown and didn't show any signs of age or decomposition. Schneewittchen, yeah. They say that she looked gorgeous, like a goddess. She was obviously dead, but everyone who looked at her said she just looked like she was sleeping. Her skin was so lifelike, she looked like she might wake up any minute. She didn't though. Like the rest of the bodies they found, she was frozen solid. Eventually, the Mackay Bennett finished the search and returned to Halifax. The 306 bodies were unloaded and taken ashore. However, it was warm enough that they began to melt. They say that the stink was horrible. But there was one body that didn't thaw. The girl in the coffin. That's right. Everybody thought for sure that she'd melt and start to rot like the rest of them eventually. But weeks passed and nothing happened. Then a month had passed and another, and it was summer, and she was still frozen solid. After a while, people started to say she was some sort of miracle. Rumors about the girl started to spread, and people came to visit Halifax from all over. After a while, people started to call her All Ice. Alice. Curse, those rumors didn't last long. Why? Well, she up and disappeared. One day, Alice was there, the next day she wasn't. They say someone snuck into where they were keeping her and stole the body. With the body gone, the rumors followed pretty quickly. And after a while, no one remembered her. You might be able to find something about her if you could find a newspaper from back then, but that's about it. Wait, you just said that she was on this boat. Yeah, I did. Alice has got to be somewhere on this ship. Now, why the hell would you say something like that? 'Cause I know. And just what is it you know? What happened to Alice after she was stolen? Jumpy gulped. Alright, tell me, what happened to Alice? Seven nodded, slowly, and took on the look of a man recalling something long buried. Well, around that time, the word was that there was a thriving black market in New York. I mean, I'm sure there still is, but this was special. All millionaires from all over the world. I've heard that Alice went up for auction there. The person who won the auction was Lord Dashiell Gordain. You've heard that name before, right? Sir Gordain. Isn't he the guy who bought the gigantic? The Titanic sister ship, yes. Yeah, that's him. Although, I guess he hadn't done that yet. What do you mean? Gordain bought Alice in 1912. Then, 4 years later, in 1960, he bought the gigantic. And he hid Alice somewhere on the gigantic. But nobody knows where. He died in 1931. And apparently, he died without ever telling anyone where Alice was hidden. However, what? Well, he did have one close friend who asked him, "Where's Alice?" And he said, "Alice sleeps in a small chamber past the forest of knowledge, beneath the navel of the gigantic." What the hell is that? Some kind of riddle? Your guess is as good as mine. Seven threw his hands up in defeat. So, that's it. Whatever you think, I believe it. She's hidden somewhere on the gigantic. In other words, she's hidden somewhere on this ship. Before Jumpy could dispute Seven's rather bizarre claim, they heard Clover's voice from the door. She did not sound pleased.
Hey! What are you two doing over there? Stop wasting time and get over here!
Okay, we're coming. Seven looked at Jumpy. Yeah, so anyway, that's the story. It might be useful someday. Don't forget it. With that cryptic remark, He turned and left the room. Jumpy was left behind to ponder what he'd just heard. He tried to remember what June had told him earlier.
That mummy wasn't just a normal mummy. They say that she was frozen. The story says that from the time of its discovery all the way through to when it got put on the Titanic, and even though it was carried through the desert, her body never melted.
Was that Egyptian priestess Alice? Had the water in her body become Ice 9? No, that's nuts. There's no way somebody like that could exist. Jumpy shook his head, trying desperately to clear it, and followed Seven to the operating room, where Clover was waiting. Jo, und dann können wir jetzt den anderen Raum besuchen. Okay, haben wir auch darüber mal wieder ein bisschen mehr gehört. War nämlich schon länger nicht mehr der Fall. Da hatten wir nämlich hinter Tür Nummer 1 was gefunden. Ich glaube, es war... Was war's? Das war so ein Buch, oder? Was wir nicht entziffern konnten. Mit irgendwelchen Hieroglyphen oder so. Und wir konnten uns darauf keinen wirklichen Reim machen. Und als wir das damals gefunden hatten, hatten wir im nächsten Moment eher andere Probleme. Denn danach ging Clover mit einer Axt auf uns los. Und ja, dann blieb irgendwie keine Zeit mehr so richtig darüber nachzudenken. Das Ganze wird jedenfalls hier noch thematisiert. Und ich kann euch an der Stelle nicht mehr so hundertprozentig tatsächlich sagen, wie das Ganze ausgeht. Deswegen kann ich euch nie mal spoilern. Also von daher, das, nö. An das erinnere ich mich, ich weiß nicht mehr genau. Ja, ich erinnere mich an ein gewisses Bild, natürlich. Ja, aber nee, da würde ich euch... Ich halte einfach die Klappe. Behalten wir den ganzen ägyptischen Kram stattdessen einfach mal im Hinterkopf. Und, ja. Denken mal einfach dann vielleicht nicht weiter drüber nach. So, und hauen jetzt hier wieder aus dem Raum ab. Denn jetzt haben wir die ganzen Sachen für... Hatte sie überhaupt einen Namen? Ich glaube, wir haben sie Lucy genannt oder so, oder? Kann das sein? Jetzt haben wir jedenfalls die ganzen Bestandteile von Lucy. Ja, tatsächlich. Sie heißt Lucy und er heißt John. An sowas erinnere ich mich komischerweise. Sonst kann ich mir nie Namen merken, aber an sowas erinnere ich mich. Es ist so seltsam. So, okay. Was müssen wir machen? Genau. Wir müssen hier alle Körperteile austauschen, bis auf das Herz. Und dann haben wir dieses Rätsel gelöst. Und dann hat sich jetzt bei John etwas getan. Nämlich an dieser Konsole hier. Jetzt können wir das hier aufmachen. Und jetzt können wir den Jupiter-Schlüssel an uns reißen. Und damit die Weltherrschaft an uns nehmen. Nee, umgekehrt. Egal. Dupdido, nee. Schnu? Doch, nee, Moment. Wohin denn Schnu? Links Schnu, genau. Das war hier lang Schnu. Und da lang Schnu. Und dort lang Schnu. Und bitte auf Schnu. So, where's Clover? Ach so, ja. Jumpy turned around. Clover was nowhere to be seen. God damn it, where the hell did she go? Okay, just hold on a minute, I'll go get her. Sure thing. Jumpy left Seven und so weiter. Und jetzt treffen wir wieder auf Clover. He found her standing next to the operating table. She was staring at the mannequin. Hey Clover, what's wrong? Come on, let's get out of here. She didn't respond. If she hadn't been standing up and breathing, Jumpy might have thought she was dead. What are you doing? Did you want to come back here and say goodbye to John? It wasn't the best joke, but it was something, an attempt to lighten the mood. Clover didn't laugh. She stood stock still and said nothing. Stock still. Stockstill. Das ist irgendwie komisch, aber na. Hey Clover, can you hear me? Perhaps it was something he'd said, or perhaps it was something else. Suddenly, her mouth opened, and she whispered in a dry, dead voice. My brother might be dead. Huh? That's why we couldn't find him. If he's dead, I'm going to be next. Suddenly, the operating room felt very, very cold.